I'm Sarah Holbrook. I'm the Executive Director of the Pinhead Institute here in Telluride, Colorado, and the lucky person who gets to interview the mayor, Sean Murphy.
Hi, Sarah.
How you doing?
Very well, thanks.
Let's talk about your sweater.
Oh, okay.
Love it.
This is a relic, so to speak. It's a 1980s thing I've had since then. It's a Tommy Hilfiger sweater.
So cute. We had to start with fashion because
that's why the sleeves are kind of getting a little too short.
Oh no, they look fabulous. It's very dapper. It's the Telluride AIDS Benefit Week this week.
And Gay Ski Week here.
And Gay Ski Week, so we have to start with fashion.
Exactly.
Yeah,
well, I'm not terribly fashionable. This is retro.
Well,
you, however, are much more color coordinated head to toe.
As it turns out, I'm a model for the Telluride AIDS Benefit. So yeah, we have to keep standards up.
So other than having to work out furiously for 5 days a week, what does that entail to prepare?
You know, it's fabulous. I recommend anybody should try out next year. They have a bunch of great people, young people, old people, in the middle people, and a lot of great talented dancers. And then the director is amazing. The choreographer is amazing. The show's going to be terrific. What's nice as a model, and I think probably this goes for everyone, but certainly this has been my experience, you get to meet a cross-section of people that you might not otherwise meet unless you are buying a book from them or getting dinner served from them or whatever. I mean, there's like a whole group of people.
These are your fellow models.
Who are my fellow models who I'm hanging out with, and it's wonderful. You get to really get to know.
So are you going to be breakdancing, or what routines are you involved with?
I am not dancing at all, but you'll just have to watch and see.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be
all right, so when are those performances? Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
Thursday and Saturday.
Thursday and Saturday,
Exactly,
okay.
So we're looking forward to it.
Good.
So what's going on with you? I guess we've had 2 town council meetings since we last met.
We have.
And what are the headlines?
Okay, a couple of important things. First of all, let's start with the kids, since we're sitting in the school.
Yeah.
Seems apropos. We had, at our town council meeting yesterday, we had a group of students who have been very actively working for the past 18 months or so on pulling together this concept of a youth hangout center. So an after-school place where they could go, preferably not run by the school.
Yeah, there was like the Youth Link, right?
Right. So that is, there historically had been a use on the Voodoo Lounge lot, I guess is what some of us call it. Some of us call it the Youth Link lot. Some of us call it the skate park lot.
Sure.
So that lot, which is behind the old Arroyo, so on Pacific, at the corner of Pacific and Willow, across from the post office and across from Scarpay Building, for lack of a better name of whatever that structure's called. That lot, we'll get to that in a second, but it had been used. There's about an 800 square foot sort of ramshackle building that was used in the past as a youth center. The town used to employ a person to be the supervisor and sort of the responsible adult on premise.
And then during the downturn.
And then during the downturn, unfortunately, that was one of the 9 positions that the town eliminated. So, and we've never hired back. In the meantime, that building sat vacant for a while.
Remember Hateful Eight used it to stage some of their stuff there. Yeah.
We used it for a few other storage purposes for town, and then a few years ago, some of the artists who were being displaced out of the Stronghouse
went there, sure.
came to the town, and we said, okay, we'll do on a 6-month rolling basis, and now it's a month-to-month rolling basis. We'll go ahead and do a makerspace so that artists can use it for making art. So that's the current use of the building. So the youth have been effectively without a home for 10 years.
Right, they all hang out at the library.
And so,
Which is great. The library's
absolutely.
amazing.
We actually had a library update yesterday from Sarah Lander, you as well. So you can go to their website and check out all the great things they've accomplished in the past year. But the group of kids came to us and said, okay, we're gaining traction. They, through Telluride Gives Day, raised $5,000 to fund operational expenses for a temporary youth hangout space. They have been lucky enough to connect with the Telluride Ski and Snowboard Club.
Sure.
And the Ski and Snowboard Club has been an incredibly good partner with them and very generously offered to make available to them on a not every day and every weekend basis, but the space that's currently occupied by the TSSC down by Lift 7.
Yeah, right across from Pinhead.
Exactly. So you know the space much better than I do.
Sure, it's a nice, light, bright space next to the ski mountain. It's a terrific
So as
location.
a temporary solution, that's really where everyone is heading. That's where the youth would like us to, then they would like the town to fund another $5,000. They raised $5,000 back at Telluride Gives Day. They received a matching grant from the Tri-County Health Network for $5,000, and they're going to the town of Telluride, the town of Mountain Village, and the county for $5,000 each. Wow. So they'll, at the end of the day, I assume they'll have effectively $25,000 to use as an operating kitty for some time to come. Then the other request to us was, well, are there any other sites in town that might be appropriate to think about a youth center? That leads us then to that lot. Okay,
yeah, right.
So that lot, 2 meetings ago, we started an open public conversation about what does the community want as a use here? We had unsolicited 4 different developers who reached out to the town of Telluride and said, hey, we want to talk to you about building a public-private partnership type of a construction project at that site. So we've provided the same information to all 4 of those developers. 2 of them completed conceptual plans. One of them wanted to go public with the conceptual plan. So we had a conversation about that for more than, I think it was almost an hour and a half, actually. Excuse me. And so that was a group out of the Front Range called Gorman. Gorman is based in Wisconsin, but they do nothing but affordable housing public-private partnerships. And so instead of traditional developer margins that are 30 to 40%, Gorman's are 8 to 10% type of thing. So in the scheme of building something, if you're going to do a public-private partnership, they actually are a very attractive developer partner for any community, including ours. Of course, having it done for no cost would be great, but no one's going to do that for us. So the real conversation that we started was, okay, given the fact that we have, as we know, we're nearing, we're halfway through our project over at the the SMPA lot where the AHA school will go, which will be open 4th quarter this year. Lot B is on the same track.
Yeah,
so,
I see the timber up now. It's very exciting.
It's kind of nice to see those ugly cars be screened off from view from the valley floor and from the spur. So that project will also be done in the 4th quarter of 2019. Our next project is going to be the joint venture with the county, the Sunnyside lot.
Right down by the traffic circle.
Yeah, right beyond the Eider Creek condo complex, former Gold King condos.
Right.
So we really are looking at, okay, what are our available resources? What are our current commitments?
need
What's
to
our
get
next
something
commitment? So the idea was, look, frankly, we've pretty much committed our budget and committed our piggy bank to those 3 projects for the next year or 2. So what do you want? If we want a project, do we have the financial capacity to build it within that time frame? Probably not.
So what you're thinking of is a public-private
So what we're thinking of is a public-private partnership that would deliver housing earlier than we could have otherwise done.
Is using that lot.
Right.
Okay, so
it could be any town-owned lot if somebody else wants to come to us. This, again, was an unsolicited proposal that had come. The backstory is, as you know well, the TSRC folks had a right to do a 99-year lease on that lot. They gave that right up last April of 2018. It's in that 8 to 9 month period that followed where we had all these other, unsolicited parties coming to us saying, hey,
how about if we
built something there? And would you talk to us and would you give us the specs and explain the zoning to us? And so our town staff has done that with a number of people. And actually, my understanding is there's yet another developer who's probably in the next 60 days or so going to come up with a competing proposal for that same lot that would involve some public benefit, of course, and then some sort of housing component and other commercial downstairs in terms of like maybe nonprofit space or perhaps even a youth center on that location.
So there is still a possibility
there
could be some youth in that corner.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, great.
And so we've not closed the door on anything. This is more of a process of saying, hey, anybody who has a use or an intended purpose that they want us to consider, please tell us. Please come and present.
Okay, so if people care about this issue and they want to know what's going on that corner lot, when's the next time town is going to be discussing this?
There's no scheduled thing yet.
Okay.
Basically, we're reacting right now to whatever feedback we get. The idea was,
so if you have opinions,
6 weeks ago we launched a dialogue about this. We want people, and we're not rushing it, so we want.
So it's just moving forward, but slowly with nothing on the calendar as the next step yet. Okay, good.
My suspicion is, let's say maybe April or May, we may have a proposal from another party,
and then you could maybe have
that'll be the next public conversation.
And
then we should look and compare and contrast those and find out. Another option is the town could build for itself on that site.
Right.
And
but the question is
timing
the funds.
is the issue there.
And how quickly you could get it done.
Right.
Yeah.
So
those
that's
two
an
interesting
important
issues,
thing.
that lot.
Neither of which got resolved yet, but both of which are continuing dialogues and that things we need to be open to hearing from more people about.
Yeah, definitely. What else?
Another thing that we had was 2 meetings ago. We had a presentation from the Telluride Mountain Village Owners Association regarding the gondola. And of course, that's one of those big.
When does that come due? Like when do we have to start considering how to pay for it?
There's probably going to be another cost-sharing arrangement that's in place as of January 1st, 2028.
Okay.
So 9 years from now.
Okay.
So the idea is rather than wait and panic and try to pull something together in the last, let's say, 2 years.
Start planning
Start thinking about this now. So the gondola, they did this in 2016, I believe, or 2015. they formed a study committee which consisted of 2 members of TMVOA's board, 2 members of the Telluride Town Council, 2 members of the one member of the San Miguel County Commission, and 2 members from the Telluride Town Council.
Nice.
So we, that group, I'm not part of it, but that group meets regularly, and actually these meetings could be attended by the public if they were so inclined. In fact, there's one tomorrow, Thursday, February 27th at 3 p.m. at the TMVOA headquarters,
Nice.
up in the Blue Mesa building, I think up in the Mountain Village.
Sure.
So they have been trying to get these partners to dialogue. So they gave us a presentation and they said, okay, here's what we've done. We've had experts, technical experts study the current gondola and what the replacement options might be. We've had an economic team from, I can't remember where they're from, I think they're Front Range. They studied the economic benefit that as between the town of Telluride, how much the town benefits, our town benefits from this, how much the town of Mountain Village benefits from it, and what the overall regional impact of the gondola is. Then we also, the next step is we're thinking of doing, and their proposal, and I think we should really give this serious consideration, and I would think people would support this, why don't we use the SMART approach, no pun intended, of getting all 7 members of the Telluride Town Council, the 7 members of the Mountain Village Town Council, and the 3 county commissioners in the same room over a series of months or years to start hashing through what is the future of the gondola. Currently, the town of Mountain Village owns the gondola. The TMVOA, the Telluride Mountain Village Owners Association, pays for the gondola, which is approximately $4 million of operating expense per year and up to $1 million or $2 million of capital expense in a capital needy year like last year. So it's a $5 to $6 million a year thing to operate after you've paid for the toy.
To make sure that you have the people who are operating it and also all the equipment up to standards.
Exactly, and that's the real nice sort of, we can all take solace in the fact that this is one of the best maintained gondola systems in the world. The engineers who came to do the assessment on this a few years back, and they come once a year anyway, just contractually to make sure that they're checking in and supervising. There's probably nothing that's been left scrutinized, and the capital investment in this machine has been tremendous. And so
that machine is amazing. I've been down in the works of the building up at the San Sofia mid station. It's crazy what goes on there. It's really remarkable.
They were really just trying to sensitize the region. They were making the same presentation to our council, to the Mountain Village Town Council, and to the county commissioners. So the idea is, hey guys, would the 17 of you total like to sit down on a regular basis with a facilitator, a neutral third party, that would start talking through what's the strategy exactly. Exactly. A neutral third party for the 3 of us, the rest of the other 3.
Exactly.
So that's something that we're definitely mindful of, and that I think it would be a great idea for all of us to commit to do that.
Yes, definitely.
So I think
it's an important, vital part of this community, and public transportation is so crucial.
Because think about what happens if we don't have a gondola.
I don't wanna
That
think
means
about it.
buses
Don't wanna think about it.
polluting.
Nope.
And
Nope,
individual
not gonna
cars
think about it.
polluting.
Nope, not going to
Yeah.
think about it.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
good.
that's
Get that going.
that's an important thing.
Let's talk about sales tax and real estate revenue.
So
real
because
estate
we're
transfer tax.
just beyond the February 20th close for sales tax, we don't have January's numbers yet. I can remind you though that for the year through 2018, Town of Telluride ended up 4.6% above where we did last year.
I'll take it.
So the nice thing is that's a pretty solid, dependable revenue stream that in at least real decent economic times continues to go up.
And
when
that goes towards keeping the lights on, keeping the salaries
operating
paid
expenses,
for the town.
yes.
Yep, got it. And then what
And
about?
then real estate transfer tax, okay, we finished 2018 very strong. We finished, I think, 12% above our projections. So we collected just around $6 million.
and
we
that
had
goes in.
budgeted $4.8 million.
Right. So let's go crazy with that extra $2 million. What are we going to do?
$1.2 million.
Oh.
4.8 and 6, yeah.
Oh, 4.8.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that money is earmarked for capital. So that
Right?
is,
so what are we going to spend it on?
well,
The sewer plant.
the sewer plant will
Very
take
exciting.
probably $2.5 million of that for next year, and we are ramping up in terms of capital requirements out there. So I think the community is going to have to convene a separate discussion as well. Another one of these smart moments where we need to all sit down and say, should we form a district because we have multiple stakeholders that use that facility? And frankly, this came up yesterday during a meeting yesterday at Town Council. Are the rates, we all realize the community user rates have gone up. Our wastewater rates went up by 70% and our
Yes.
water rates went up by 30%.
Yes,
so
that
for
was
an
a surprise
average
to some who weren't paying attention.
increase of 50%.
Yeah.
That being said, we have we're staring at an $80 million new
Renovations
sewer
on that.
wastewater
Yeah.
plant
Can't not do
need.
it.
And the problem is the state and the federal government are really the drivers of the timing on this.
Mm-hmm.
That current plant has reached close to the end of its useful life. It could limp along for a few more years, but what is happening is the state is coming out with, or the state has imposed certain nutrient requirements, like lack of nutrients in the water.
Right.
And what you discharge has to be pretty amazingly clean.
So we have to
So
be up to code.
We have to
and
be
so
up to
we
code,
need
and the
do that
federal government
project.
has its own other more restrictive set of requirements that are going to apply as of 2027. So we need to start planning, just like the gondola. We know this is coming. We know that we have a date certain at which we need to comply. How do we get ourselves in a position to either have something that's functional and serves the community, or are we going to just shirk it and kick the can down the alley and let some other town council deal with it? So that's a philosophical question that we'll be tackling in the next year, or the remaining 2 years now, or actually some of us only have 8 more months or so on our terms, right? Because we'll have an election in November, and 4 council members will be up,
Okay.
including me. So. So those sort of bigger cost things are trade-offs.
Anything fun
but
and little that you can fund now that you have $1.2 extra million in the bank?
we have not. We went through a very disciplined budgeting process, and each department head back in October came up with their wish lists. We skinnied that down.
Crazy, like we're
Well,
gonna
we're
get new
trying to
Christmas
spend
lights
less
or-
because we're worried about a recession.
Right.
And so we really have kind of challenged each department to say, what could you defer for another year? Because we don't feel it yet. Although, back to real estate transfer tax for the month of January of 2019, real estate transfer tax was down 44%. So
Yikes.
instead of 300 grand, we had just barely 100 or something. So, that's a very highly sort of variable revenue stream,
yeah.
and you really can't predict, that's
Yeah,
very
for the
abnormal
year
or
is
whatever.
better, yeah.
Who knows when a contract is going to go into in force? So
Yeah.
we're trying to be cautious and a little more careful than we have been in recent years. So, for
Okay.
example, on real estate transfer tax, last year we had budgeted 4.8 million. Gosh, we got 6. This year we've only budgeted 4.4 million.
Right.
Just
So-
trying to back off a bit and realize that because of a number of factors, including there's not a lot for sale right now in the town of
Right.
Telluride, there's no
Yeah.
inventory, so if there's no
So there's no
turn,
transfer
there's no
tax.
transfer tax.
Yeah.
And unless and until new construction occurs on various vacant lots,
Yeah.
we're
you
not
can't sell a
looking
lot.
at a pipeline of a lot of revenue coming in
Right.
on that side.
Right.
So the good news is we're cautious, but
Yeah.
it's not dire, so there's no reason to ring an alarm bell at this point.
Right, exactly.
But-
But we're not going to throw a big town-wide block party where you're serving.
We're not going to
free
blow $1
pizza
million
on the
on a
street.
free street party.
Wouldn't that be
No.
fun? I would go to that party. Let's talk about
End of the world party,
construction.
huh?
Let's talk about construction on the valley floor, the new tailings mitigation.
That's great. That was on my
meandering. Yeah.
perfect. So
Yeah.
the Open Space Commission has done a pretty exhaustive study about this, and of course Lance McDonald, who really is our staff person, who is not only is he the affordable housing building guru of the whole community, but he's also the open space guru. So Lance came up with a very interesting, the group, the community, that group, working group, came up with an idea of, we have a very expensive tailings remediation that has been required to happen under the settlement agreement that was reached between Idorado and the state of Colorado and the town of Telluride.
And that's funded not by the town of Telluride, but by a bunch of entities.
That's a good point. The problem is they put a price tag on that tailings remediation out on the west side of the valley
that
floor
isn't gonna pay for it
that's
all?
inadequate.
Ah,
They
okay.
told them back in 1999, I think that's right, okay, it's a $900,000 expense. So Idorado Mining set aside the $900,000, but there
But
was
it's
no
gonna
requirement
cost
that
a
it was
lot.
interest-bearing, and there was no requirement that there was any inflationary uptick in the obligation.
Uh-huh.
So there's $900,000 sitting there
But
in
it's
some
gonna cost
lockbox,
$2 million
but it's
or
going to
something,
cost
right?
about 2.4, 2.3.
So
we
the
have a million
state,
point
the
four.
federal government's coming in.
So we basically have designed let's say, a more creative solution that actually is a little more true to maybe the ecological underlying sensitivity of that area. We've decided, just as we did in these first 4 reaches of the river, to let the river
To
meander.
re-meander, I love it.
So we're going to re-meander the river
away from the tailings
to the south
pile.
of the tailings pile, and thereby save about $1 million.
Okay.
So
Sounds like a good idea.
and the river will be,
And
you
it
know,
will be less
can go.
channelized, which is nice.
That's true.
And
yeah.
then what about the tailings that remain?
So then we're going to take dirt from a couple of our
Yeah,
our
the
construction
Virginia plaster.
projects.
Yeah, that had a big pile.
We are going to put it over the tailings. So you might notice there's been some dirt that's been stockpiled along the spur out here.
Yes, I did
And
notice
that is actually, I think that particular pile came from the Windhorse when they were building the road up there. Our town manager, Ross Herzog, very aptly saw an opportunity to help, to get a mutually beneficial situation.
Right,
And that
take it
was
from there,
the
put it
developer would have
there.
otherwise trucked that dirt way the heck away
Don't
from
do it.
Telluride at at a carbon
Yeah.
footprint cost much higher. We said, how about we
Keep it.
let
for the
you store it
tailings.
give it to us.
Yeah.
We'll let you store it along the spur, and then we will put it over the tailings later on in 2019.
Oh, that's great.
So this summer and fall, people should be prepared for some disruption in that area of the valley floor, and that is the
and
tailings
it'll be a big
remediation.
dirt berm, or will it not actually have a lot of volume?
It shouldn't be. It's not like we're creating some sort of huge.
Right, it's not like the huge
yeah.
tailings pile past
No,
Town
and it
Park.
won't look like it does along the spur. Those
Yeah.
big piles. It'll be much more gently rolling,
Neat.
but it'll at least keep that contained and then move that issue off the
And
you
then
know.
re-meander.
And so
And so the whole river will be less channelized, so it'll be lovely for
exactly,
stand-up
it'll be
paddleboards
a little
and
more
birds
natural
and
and
fish.
much safer for users.
Yeah.
Because certainly I've heard stories of people like seeing like high school kids suntanning on the tailings, and that's not a good idea. So
Yeah.
we really don't want people near those things. So
Yeah.
please stay away from them.
Yeah,
And
until
then
they're
once we
covered
get
up, and then enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then it's safe. So
Right, because then I think you can't walk on that tailings pile over there. Or maybe you can, I don't
the
know,
one
I never
that's
would've, the huge
down
one.
east?
Yeah, down east of Town Park.
why
But
would you
whatever.
want to? I don't
know. I don't know, I look at it from Tomboy every once in a while, but over that way, it will then become
That's
part of
curing,
our.
yeah. That's a much bigger problem though than what's
Yeah,
over here.
Exactly.
So, but
Well,
you're right.
science, technology, engineering, and math are gonna save us.
All of our kids are going to engineer our way out of all of our problems, and hopefully at a lower cost than what we think it will cost.
Yeah, let's hope.
Well, that's
Or else we will throw that big block party and all say goodbye.
Well,
is
speaking
this-
of big block parties
Yeah.
or big parties, the last thing that I wanted to bring up and just share with the community was we went ahead and we adopted a new ordinance that regulates the festival liquor license sales a little more closely.
okay,
So
sure.
just as we had previously discussed, where we had situations where we didn't really have a good visibility into the reasonability of certain expenses that were being paid by the entity that held the liquor license. Now we have much stricter standards. We have an audit, the ability to have a third-party audit firm
Yeah.
come in and look at any of these festivals that are held on town-owned land that get special event liquor license permits.
And then
So,
what's
and
happening
then
now
the
is
ultimate
proceeds
beneficiaries.
has to be local.
They have to be, it's 100% local unless the promoter comes to town council and gives us a very compelling reason why those proceeds should leave the community. There
okay.
may be situations that have been
Where
mentioned
you say
in
Eureka,
where,
that
yes,
sounds great, let's do it.
this particular worthy musician training group in Memphis, Tennessee, for example, may be a wonderful beneficiary and,
Sure.
and has created a pipeline of people coming to Telluride to perform as well.
That would be a
So
lovely little loop, wouldn't
that's
it?
a possibility, but what we've tried to do is set up the default rules so that there's a lot more transparency, so that there's a lot more accountability, and so that we, at the end, have beneficiaries that get 95% of the proceeds, so that they don't sit and embargo and hold a bunch of money. Substantially all has to be distributed out within 120 days of the event. So the local eligible exempt organizations that actually receive these funds should see them quicker than in the past, and we should have more of it staying local.
Yeah,
So win-win.
awesome,
I
sounds
think.
great, yeah.
Certain promoters don't agree with me, but
Well,
that's okay.
It's interesting, we'll just see how it plays out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these rules, you can always change them. This is dynamic. That's the whole reason you don't just set the law. It's not like the 10 Commandments and there's no deviation.
Chiseled in stone.
You got to have all these like crazy political people who get to sit there and go, well, wait a minute, the community has changed, adapted, the needs have changed. This goal we've accomplished what we needed to, or we have a more urgent thing.
Adapt or die.
Exactly. So there you go.
Evolution.
Well,
It's a rule.
should we end now?
Yeah. Should we end with adapt and die?
Not and die.
Or die.
It's or die.
Excuse me.
It's an alternative choice.
Right, exactly. Let's just adapt, shall
Okay,
we?
on that non-conjunctive
Yes,
note.
exactly. Let's just adapt. Awesome.
All right,
Always
thanks
happy
as always.
to talk to you, Sean. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sarah.
Adapt.